At 101 years old, I have watched many food trends rise and fall like tides against the shore. I have seen people fear fat, worship carbohydrates, and more recently, treat protein as if it were a miracle substance the body could never have too much of. But the truth is simpler, and it is something I learned through decades of paying attention to how the human body truly works. The body is a remarkable machine, but it is also very precise. It does not use nutrients randomly, and it certainly does not waste energy holding on to substances it cannot use. Protein is one of those nutrients people often misunderstand. It is essential for life, yes, but the body has a very specific plan for what to do with it, and just as importantly, what to do when there is more of it than we need. You see, when we eat protein, the body does not store it the way it stores fat or carbohydrates. Instead, it breaks protein down into smaller building blocks called amino acids. These amino acids are then used for critical tasks, repairing muscle fibers, producing enzymes, building hormones, and maintaining the countless tissues that keep us alive. But here is the part many people never think about. Once the body has taken what it needs, the rest cannot simply sit around. Excess amino acids must be processed and safely removed. And this is where some of the most fascinating biology in the human body begins. Over the years, I became deeply interested in this process. How does the body deal with extra protein? What organs are responsible? And what actually happens inside us when protein intake goes beyond what our cells require? The answer lies in a carefully coordinated system involving digestion, the liver, and the kidneys, an elegant metabolic pathway that quietly protects the body every single day. If you understand this process, you will never look at protein the same way again. Let me begin with something that surprises many people when they first hear it. The body does not recognize protein the way we see it on a plate. It does not see steak, fish, eggs, beans, or tofu. To the body, protein is nothing more than a chain of amino acids waiting to be taken apart and reused. When I was younger, I used to imagine the digestive system as a kind of workshop. Food enters as raw material, and the body's job is to break it down into useful pieces. Protein undergoes one of the most precise dismantling processes in the entire digestive system. The moment protein enters the stomach, the process begins. The stomach releases a powerful enzyme called pepsin. Pepsin starts cutting long protein chains into smaller fragments known as peptides. At the same time, stomach acid helps unfold the protein structures so the enzymes can access them more easily. Think of it as loosening tightly folded fabric before cutting it into smaller pieces. But the stomach only performs the first stage of the work. The real breakdown happens when food enters the small intestine. There, the pancreas releases several specialized enzymes, trypsin, chymotrypsin, and other proteases. These enzymes continue slicing the peptides into smaller and smaller units until they become individual amino acids. These amino acids are small enough to pass through the intestinal wall and enter the bloodstream. Once they are circulating in the blood, the body distributes them wherever they are needed. Now, this is where the body's priorities become clear. Amino acids are first directed toward the most important biological functions. They are used to repair damaged muscle tissue, produce enzymes that drive chemical reactions, create hormones that regulate metabolism, and build antibodies that protect us from disease. Every day, millions of cells in the body are being repaired or replaced. Amino acids are essential for that work. Without them, the body would slowly lose its ability to maintain itself. But here is the key point that many people misunderstand. The body only needs a certain amount of amino acids at any given time. Once the immediate needs are satisfied, the remaining amino acids have nowhere to go. Unlike fat and carbohydrates, protein cannot be stored in large reserves. The body does not have a special protein storage tank. So when excess amino acids are present in the bloodstream, the body must find another solution. This is where the liver steps in. The liver is one of the most sophisticated chemical processing centers in the entire human body. It constantly monitors the bloodstream, deciding what nutrients should be stored, transformed, or removed. When excess amino acids reach the liver, a critical process begins. This process is known as deamination. Each amino acid contains two major components, a carbon structure and a nitrogen group. The nitrogen portion is what makes protein unique among nutrients. But when amino acids are in excess, that nitrogen becomes a problem the body must solve. Through deamination, the liver removes the nitrogen group from the amino acid molecule. Once the nitrogen is separated, the remaining carbon skeleton can be used for energy production or converted into other substances such as glucose or fat. But the nitrogen itself cannot remain freely in the body. When nitrogen is removed from amino acids, it forms a substance called ammonia. Ammonia is extremely toxic to human cells. Even small amounts can disrupt brain function and damage tissues. Because of this danger, the body must quickly neutralize it. Fortunately, the liver has another remarkable system designed specifically for this task. It is known as the urea cycle. Inside liver cells, ammonia is rapidly converted into a much safer compound called urea. Urea is far less toxic and can safely circulate in the bloodstream until it is removed from the body. This conversion is not a simple chemical reaction. It is a carefully regulated cycle involving several enzymes and multiple biochemical steps. The body performs this process continuously, quietly protecting itself from the potentially harmful byproducts of protein metabolism. Once urea is formed, it leaves the liver and travels through the bloodstream. But the journey is not finished yet. The next organ in this process is the kidney. The kidneys are extraordinary filters. Every minute they process large volumes of blood, removing waste products while preserving the substances the body still needs. As blood passes through the kidneys, tiny filtering structures called nephrons examine its contents. Useful nutrients are reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, while waste products are separated and directed toward urine formation. Urea is one of those waste products. The kidneys extract urea from the blood and concentrate it into urine. Eventually, this urine travels through the urinary system and leaves the body. In this way, the excess nitrogen from protein metabolism is safely removed. When I first learned about this system many decades ago, I remember feeling a deep sense of admiration for the elegance of it. The body does not panic when extra protein arrives. It simply follows its biological program. Break it down, use what is needed, transform the rest, and remove the waste. This process happens every single day of our lives. usually without us ever noticing. And yet, understanding it reveals an important truth about nutrition. The body values balance. It is not impressed by extremes, and it does not reward excess simply because a nutrient is essential. Protein is vital for life, but like all nutrients, it exists within a carefully regulated system. When we understand that system, we begin to see food not as a trend or a marketing slogan, but as part of a remarkable biological rhythm that has sustained human beings for thousands of years. And the deeper you look into that rhythm, the more extraordinary the body appears. By the time I reached my 70s, I had begun to realize something that most people never stop to consider. The human body is not simply a machine that absorbs everything we give it. It is a system of constant decisions. Every nutrient that enters the bloodstream is evaluated, prioritized, and either used, transformed, or removed. Protein is one of the clearest examples of this biological decision making. Once amino acids have entered the bloodstream and the body has satisfied its immediate needs, repairing tissues, producing enzymes, maintaining organs, the remaining amino acids cannot simply accumulate. If they did, the internal chemistry of the body would quickly fall out of balance. That is why the liver's work does not end with deamination. After the nitrogen portion is removed, the remaining carbon structure of the amino acids still holds energy. The body is remarkably efficient and it rarely wastes usable energy. So this carbon skeleton enters one of several metabolic pathways. Sometimes it is converted into glucose. This process is called gluconeogenesis. In simple terms, the body can transform certain amino acid structures into sugar molecules that circulate in the blood. These molecules can then be used as fuel for cells, especially for the brain and muscles. At other times, the carbon skeleton may be converted into fatty acids and eventually stored as body fat. This surprises many people. They assume that fat in the body can only come from dietary fat, but the truth is more complex. When excess energy from any nutrient exists, including protein, the body can convert it into fat for long-term storage. In other cases, the carbon skeleton is simply burned immediately for energy through cellular respiration. It enters the same metabolic pathways used by carbohydrates and fats, helping generate the molecule that powers nearly every activity in the human body, ATP. So even after the nitrogen is removed, the body continues to extract value from the remaining molecular structure. Nothing useful is wasted. Meanwhile, the nitrogen that was separated during deamination continues its journey through the urea cycle. As I mentioned earlier, ammonia is converted into urea within liver cells. Once formed, urea dissolves easily in the bloodstream and travels throughout the body until it reaches the kidneys. The kidneys, those tireless filters that operate every moment of our lives, remove this urea from the blood. Inside each kidney are about 1 million microscopic filtering units called nephrons. These structures continuously process blood plasma, separating valuable substances from waste products. When urea enters the nephron filtration system, it passes into the forming urine along with water and other dissolved waste materials. From there, the fluid travels through increasingly concentrated channels inside the kidney until it becomes the urine that eventually leaves the body. This entire journey, from protein digestion to amino acid absorption, nitrogen removal, urea formation, and kidney excretion, can happen within a matter of hours after a meal. And yet most people never notice that such an intricate biochemical choreography is taking place inside them. As someone who has lived more than a century, I have watched generations become fascinated with protein. In different decades, people were told to eat more of it for strength, more of it for weight loss, more of it for muscle, and sometimes more of it simply because it sounded healthy. But the body itself remains calm and methodical. It does not panic when protein intake rises. It simply activates the systems that evolution has refined over millions of years. However, understanding this process also reveals an important limitation. The body can safely handle excess protein, but that does not mean the process is free of cost. For example, the conversion of ammonia into urea requires energy and biochemical resources. The liver must constantly perform this detoxification process, and the kidneys must continually filter the resulting waste. In healthy individuals, these organs are remarkably capable of handling the workload. But like any biological system, they function best when the demands placed upon them remain within reasonable limits. This is one reason hydration becomes important when protein intake increases. The kidneys rely on adequate water to dissolve and transport urea in urine. Without enough fluid, the concentration of waste products in the kidneys can rise, placing additional strain on the filtration system. Over the years, I learned to appreciate the quiet partnership between the liver and the kidneys. The liver acts as the chemical converter, transforming toxic nitrogen into manageable waste. The kidneys then serve as the final gatekeepers, removing that waste from circulation and maintaining the delicate chemical balance of the bloodstream. Together, they form a detoxification pathway that protects the brain, the heart, and every other organ from the potentially harmful byproducts of metabolism. Another interesting detail is that not all nitrogen waste leaves the body as urea. Small amounts may also appear in other compounds, such as uric acid or creatinine, which are also filtered by the kidneys. But urea remains the primary end product of protein metabolism in humans. When you consider the complexity of these processes, it becomes clear that the body has evolved an incredibly efficient system for managing nutrients. It knows how to use protein when it is needed, how to transform it when there is too much, and how to eliminate the waste that remains. For most of my life, I found great comfort in this knowledge. It reminded me that the body is not fragile in the way many people imagine. It is resilient, adaptive, and constantly working to maintain balance. But balance is the key word. The human body is designed for harmony between intake, utilization, and elimination. When nutrients arrive in appropriate amounts, the system operates smoothly and efficiently. When intake consistently exceeds what the body can comfortably process, the metabolic workload increases. That is not a cause for fear, but it is a reason for awareness. When I speak to younger people today, I often tell them that understanding nutrition begins with understanding physiology. Once you see how the body actually handles food, how it digests it, transforms it, and removes what it cannot use, you start to realize that health is not about extremes. It is about respecting the remarkable system that has been quietly protecting you since the day you were born. Now, after more than a century of living in this body, I have come to appreciate something simple but profound. The human body is always working for us, quietly maintaining balance even when we barely understand the processes taking place inside. Protein is essential. Without it, our muscles could not repair themselves, our enzymes would not function, and our immune system would struggle to protect us. It is one of the fundamental building materials of life. But like everything else in biology, its usefulness depends on balance. When protein enters the body, it is carefully dismantled into amino acids. Those amino acids are then distributed to wherever they are needed, repairing tissues, producing hormones, supporting countless cellular activities. The body uses what it requires with remarkable efficiency. Yet when more protein arrives than the body can use, the system does not break down. Instead, it activates a precise and elegant pathway. The liver removes nitrogen from excess amino acids through deamination, transforming potentially harmful ammonia into safer urea through the urea cycle. That urea then travels through the bloodstream to the kidneys, where it is filtered out and ultimately removed through urine. This entire process happens quietly, continuously, and faithfully. Every day of our lives, the body performs this complex metabolic work without asking for recognition. Understanding this journey, from digestion to amino acids, from nitrogen removal to kidney filtration, reveals something important about human health. The body is not built for extremes. It is built for regulation, efficiency, and balance. At 101 years old, I no longer chase nutritional fads or promises of miracle foods. What I trust instead is the wisdom of the body itself. It knows how to use what it needs, how to transform what it can, and how to remove what no longer serves it. And if we learn to respect that quiet intelligence, we may discover that the secret to long life is not excess, but harmony.